Gregory and Jonathan from Arklight. They're a local band here in the city. Um, I almost saw them, but something came up, and I hope that in the future I get to see them when they're playing again. They've got a really cool, sort of like really cool vibe. I listened to a lot of their music before I went. I couldn't go to the show. Um, How are you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Doing
Yep,
very
very
well.
good.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. So, how long have you guys been playing music?
Greg and I, we're brothers. He's the drummer. I'm the guitarist and singer. We've been playing together since we were kids. And using the Arklight name even since high school, really.
That's cool.
So, some form of Arklight has been around for, at this point, over a decade.
Right,
Um,
close to 2 decades.
yeah,
I
Storied history.
yes. But Jonathan joined about 2 years ago, something like that, Jonathan.
Yeah.
think closer to three at this point.
May of 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when the band really started playing live more and being more focused and out there in the New York City scene.
What made you want to start your band?
Um, that's a good question. Me and Greg grew up in a house that was full of music. Our dad was a kind of a record collector geek, so he had Frank Zappa and Captain Beefheart albums lying around the house, and we were born in the early '90s, late '80s for me. So the radio was full of tail end of grunge. We kind of got into like the Nirvana stuff, and yeah, just fell in love with music through the music that our family was playing and what the tail end of kind of good music being on the radio. And yeah, that kind of got us interested in playing music, I believe.
Yeah, I also think, well, our dad's a writer and a poet. Our mom was a professional dancer before Dan and I were born. So both performance and creative expression has always been, um, encouraged from our family. I'm also like a visual artist, so like and Dan draws too as well. I think we were always encouraged to you know do creative things. Found it was therapeutic at an early age, um, and of course, Dan and I were always doing something, so it's like why not make some music together as well?
That's cool.
Yeah,
I always love to see families and bands. I don't know what it
for
is,
sure.
but like just like knowing that the brothers or the brother and sister or the sisters got together and they were close enough that like the incongruities of uh putting together the songs and recording and playing shows didn't get in the way of like that familial bond, you know? Do you think that like playing in a band made you guys closer?
We were
I would say
always pretty
100%.
close. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I never felt close to Dan before the band act, and honestly, but
It had to repair a lot of damage, the band. Yeah.
well, no, I think it's kind of twofold. Like it both brought us closer in that, like sometimes, especially as you get older, it can be hard to make time for family if you don't have like a shared activity or creative outlet like that. Um, but also, I think it helped the band subsist for so many years because basically Danny won't let me quit.
Right.
So there's of course that sibling bully, but you know, um, basically to make sure we stay together. I would like to hear from Jonathan actually, though. I mean, I think I understand some of his motivations, but I'd actually be curious to hear exactly what made Jonathan want to join a band and
Yeah,
play music.
Jonathan, what made you want to join a band?
Um, I had been in, beginning of the pandemic, I had started playing bass and learning bass. And I guess for me, anything like that, ultimately, I feel like the goal is to play live. And in this case, you could do it solo, or, I wanted to play with other people, uh, and play for other people. And originally, we met through Craigslist. I had answered a Craigslist ad, but I think originally a lot of the bands that I would see on there were like cover bands, and that's not terrible, but it's nice to make original music and play original music, even though, at least in here, I don't know if Taylor, if you've noticed a difference in what people consume musically for live music in, let's say, Westchester versus NYC or Brooklyn specifically, but I've noticed that Brooklyn seems to be more about new music from local artists, whereas Westchester and suburbs, I feel like it's more about a nostalgia and cover bands. Uh, that's the vibe I get about location. But no, the reason was I just wanted to play music and play it live, whether it's theater or film or something. I like to make things that other people can consume.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about Westchester and the surrounding area. Um, there's very little in terms of infrastructure up here to give bands an opportunity to foster and grow. While in New York City, you could probably find two or three venues within a 4 block radius of each other. It's
If you're in Bushwick.
Yeah, if you're in Bushwick or if you're in Ridgewood. Uh, yep. So no, I think that really comes down to who is paying the ticket price, and it's usually going to be uh, mothers and fathers wanting to take their kids to see the music that they grew up with, or a couples night out, or people who own homes here in Westchester. Well, we have three big theaters: the Paramount in Peekskill, the Tarrytown Music Hall, and the Capitol Theater. And just if you just take the Capitol Theater, they have a bar adjoining the theater called Garcia's, which is literally a place for Jerry Garcia uh, um, acts to come, and they like host every Jerry Garcia act from around the country. So yeah, no, it's a very different vibe. Um, I really wish that it wasn't the case because there is talent up here, but just the fact that the city is so welcoming and kind of like, come, my child, let me take
I,
you.
I should point out, Dan was originally pushing for us to be a Grateful Dead cover band.
That's true. No, just Jerry Garcia's solo work. No Grateful Dead.
So, what genre would you say your band is?
It's always a bit tricky to answer that because you don't want to get pigeonholed. We kind of have a running joke where someone says, "Oh, are you guys like a punk band?" We just say yes. You guys a rock band? We say yes. It's whatever genre. We just kind of say yes. Um,
They say
if you,
jazz fusion. We're like,
Daniel,
definitely, yeah.
Do we play country music?
oh hell yes,
Yeah. The answer is yes. Always yes. The
um,
answer is yes.
yes. But if you're going, I guess, based on like the close reference points, we hear like noise rock a lot or post punk. Those are probably the two that get thrown around most often.
We do try to coin our own genres.
That's true.
We have a hashtag, one called Cremo and another one called, was it Goose
Goose rock,
Rock or
goose
Goosecore?
rock.
Excuse me, Goosecore,
Because
Goosecore.
Jonathan listened to a clip of us and he said, was it my voice? I sounded like a
No,
goose.
no. Well, it was a combination. I always
I
thought the
think it was your
bass sounded a
appearance.
little goosey, but
Yeah.
overall, there was one clip where all of us together just sounded like a herd of gooses.
Geese.
Geese, a herd of geese, flock of geese, a
Originally,
murder of geese.
we were going to be a Jerry Garcia band, like a Jerry Garcia band, but like goose sounds.
So,
I always find with that the genre question, a lot of times it'll depend on who's asking. If they seem more like they know a lot of niche music, I will definitely go with post punk or noise rock. But a lot of times I do like just using punk rock because I think that the ethos is very punk rock, uh, even if it's not. When most people hear punk rock, it might not be exact. And close their eyes and think about like the sounds that come to mind. I don't know if that matches ours, but I do like punk as like an umbrella term.
yeah,
Whenever I say post-punk, I usually have to then explain that post-punk is not the same as punk because they start naming like punk bands that don't sound like us. So I almost want to avoid that word entirely, even though post-punk is, I guess, kind of correct. We could always just say rock. I don't know.
so who are the bands that influence you as you write your music?
Uh, I mean, I usually say that the number one in my book, and these guys can chime in, is Sonic Youth. They're kind of, the pinnacle for me, just because they had such a long career, and every album, in my opinion, has something worthwhile in it. And yeah, they'd kind of be the pinnacle of music for me. But we all grew up listening to Nirvana. That's a big one for us. And I think we try and keep that in mind. I think Kurt Cobain even said everyone winds up playing the music they listened to when they were a kid. So um, that's probably a common reference point. But then, more esoteric stuff. Um, we do like the post-punk stuff, Joy Division, uh, Bauhaus, the pop group, and then, the American time period equivalents, whether it's the Minutemen or Husker Du and that kind of stuff. And then more modern, in growing up in New York City, going to see bands like Lightning Bolt and Sightings and Wolf Eyes and all that kind of noise rock stuff. That was a big influence. So you can kind of trace uh, from the 80s onward kind of where we come from, and you can trace it back further.
Have you ever gone on tour? And if so, what was your favorite city?
So
Bushwick.
we haven't gone on like a very
A
long
tour
tour.
of
We often
Brooklyn.
joke that we often joke that we're touring Brooklyn 365 days a year. But what you call it? We've definitely done like a lot of weekend trips through Pennsylvania and Jersey and stuff like that. Um, and I've had some interesting experiences at different cities in Pennsylvania. Um, one that stands out. I don't know if it's one of our favorite cities. In fact, it might be that. But we played a show in Reading um, at a space. Dan, what was the name of that? That was
Pleasure Tone.
Pleasure
Pleasure
Tone
Tone
DIY, which was an amazing space. The type of thing that like could only exist in a place that's far cheaper than New York City. Because it was like they'd rented literally like a building, and they had like their own makeshift thrift shop in it, places to display visual art. This pretty massive room where they would host bands to play music. But it was interesting seeing that area in Reading was definitely. I don't want to be unsympathetic, but it's definitely a dilapidated kind of let's say rustic area.
I
And it
didn't
was
think it
also
was that
during
bad.
I was getting very frustrated with Jonathan, who was stopping to take pictures in an area that I thought may have put ourselves in where we
Yeah,
should
I
have been
thought
a
it was
little bit
beautiful.
less leisurely walking around. Um,
Greg
but
was clutching his pearls kind of during this.
yeah. um, but in terms of favorites that we loved, Fishtown in Philadelphia is a beautiful fucking area. We've been told it's kind of like the Bushwick of Philadelphia. Um, that was a place with yeah, all the people were so friendly and beautiful and alternative. And actually, the bands we played with from over there, I thought were it was almost like we can't miss. I thought they were all fantastic and unique sounding.
Yeah, I'd even shout some of them out by name. You got Luna Honey, Nixie Nix, My Wife's an Angel, Bill Spector's Gun. I'm probably missing some.
Raid.
Raid, who are from more like the Lehigh Valley area. But it's funny, I was doing like a little thing on Instagram where I was posting my favorite bands, my favorite like things I listened to on Bandcamp over the course of the year. And I was like, damn, they're all from Pennsylvania. You know, like a lot of the bands we played with in Philly, just for some reason, were really high quality.
So, what's your favorite song that you've ever written?
I like the songs that we kind of write together. Um, we've kind of transitioned. Originally, it was more like I'd bring a riff and kind of try and shoehorn, get the guys to write something along with it. But recently, we've just been writing things more through jamming. We have a song called Windshield Wipers, which opens our newest release, Savage Cultural Exchange, and that was really just I think Greg and Jonathan just started this very it's like a two-note bass line bass pretty much. And
Those are
then I
both the
started,
ones he knows. Yeah,
yeah, there
but
you go. The two notes.
There is some truth to what Greg just said, though.
So yeah,
there's this.
go ahead, Rick.
Well, yeah, I definitely agree with Dan. It's best when it's a collaborative effort that kind of happens organically. Um, but there's a song called Carajo Land. That's also well, it's on our newest release, Savage Cultural Exchange. That I feel like you can hear a lot of Joy Division and Sonic Youth. You can hear a lot of the things we draw from, um, but it also has what I would describe as a very unique sound that's kind of quintessential Arklight. Um, that I don't feel like many other bands sound like. It's got a siren like guitar part that Dan does with he makes by having a metal what we found out what it was. He has a metal piece that he puts under his guitar strings. Yeah, it's called a shim. Which is in computers primarily. Is that where it came from? It came from the inside of a computer.
No, I think it's for construction. Someone told me streetlights use them a lot. It's like a kind of a horseshoe, a metal horseshoe that I jam under the strings of my guitar to produce this shrieky sound, which we use on two songs that are on the new album. We use it on Metal Sidewalks and Carajo Land.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, I also like how that song. It's a song that builds. It's been a source of consternation in the band because I always push to have that be our opening song, just because I feel like, again, it encapsulates our sound better or as good as any other song we have. And I really like the way it kind of grows till it reaches like an almost Sonic Youth like freak out at the end, where you really get to see the energy that the band has, and it kind of builds to a crescendo in my opinion. But I think Dan and Jonathan, and we should point out that we do have a fourth member, Noah, who's not here. But I think they get a little bored of playing it live as our opener all the time. So we've definitely gotten in some debates about that. But yeah, definitely one of my favorites.
So, in New York City, what's your favorite music venue that you played at?
I'll shout out Wonderville is definitely high up there on the list. The fourth member we just mentioned, Noah Smith, we actually met him there. He's the most recent member of the band. He plays the second guitar. He kind of adds like a lead guitar parts. He was the sound guy at Wonderville when we played there 3 times previously. We became friends with him. And then I mentioned we were interested in adding a second guitar player, and he was like, I play guitar. And, we got along with him really well. So he started jamming with us. He's at work right now, unfortunately, so he couldn't join. But yeah, I mean, Wonderville is definitely high up there because we met a band member through playing there. And it's a cool space with like old arcade game, or not old arcade games, indie arcade games that like people make. And yeah, it's just a really awesome, probably the only venue where we love playing there on like a Monday night or a Wednesday night or whatever. There's just always people there. So it's like a great place to play any night of the week.
No, the atmosphere there is fantastic. Should point out, actually, Taylor, you look a little like Noah.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I feel like if he ever drops out and you play guitar, Taylor. But definitely Wonderville would be up there for us. Jonathan, what are some of your favorites in terms of venues we played?
Mama Tried, I would add to the list.
100%.
Mama Tried is also a nice space outdoors. We usually play there in the day. Whenever we play there, I feel like I'm on vacation somewhere. And also, there's something to be said about the treatment of bands and the mechanics of the business that is show business in New York City, which is a lot of places are kind of pay to play, where you have to pay money ahead of time, or other times they take it from the ticket sales, and the business model is not always kind to smaller bands. And you know, Mama Tried, I thought, was very fair with their setup, and with regards to selling tickets, selling drinks, and people buying food. Because when you bring a crowd into a venue, the establishment is going to make money not just off the ticket sales, but they're going to make money off of the drinks and off of the food. So venues that take that into consideration, in my book, I rate them higher than ones that are just trying to take something and then in some cases push you out of the venue as soon as possible, as soon as your set is over, and not even give you time to, let's say, sell merchandise, which may be one of the few ways that you can recoup some of the money back. So it's kind of the dark side of the smaller music industry that nobody gets to hear about or see, but the bands feel it. So I would add, yeah, Wonderville, Mama Tried.
100. I feel like with Mama Tried, and you kind of touched on this, but the thing that stands out, it's always great when the people who run the venue really like music and are, passionate about curating shows and stuff like that, and making sure that they're giving, experimental and unique bands a chance to have a platform to amplify their music and stuff like that. The person who runs Mama Tried, first name's Colin. Dan, do you know his last name? Colin.
I'm not sure what his last name is, but Colin. Yeah.
But when we first played there, he was someone who listened to our music ahead of time, and they were a venue that was probably a little bit bigger than you'd think. I think we played our second or third show with Jonathan there, and it was very nice of him to give us a shot, but he literally just went and listened to our music and dug it, and gave us a shot where a lot of other venues might just be like, oh, if they even listen to the music, they might dig it, but they'll just look at the Instagram followers and think they're not going to bring a crowd. We'll probably pass on these guys. He was also wearing a shirt that said there's a noise band from, I guess, the late 90s, early 2000s. Dan, do I have that correct?
Yeah, I don't know exactly.
Child Abuse. Called Child Abuse, that are definitely pretty out there, and it's pretty brave wearing a shirt that says Child Abuse and has a school bus on it. But it was the type of thing like, oh, this guy really knows music, and is definitely someone who wants to give people a shot to express themselves and amplify, which is always awesome.
And it was cool because we wound up playing with a band who we become friends with called Chaser, and their drummer Oron is a former member of Child Abuse. So it kind of went full circle as we made our way through the New York City scene to actually meet some of these, noise rock bands that we have maybe stylistic roots connected to.
So what's your favorite memory of playing together?
Oh, honestly, uh, one of them, um, bring it back to the answer to the question right before this. After we played our first gig at Mama Tried, even during the first gig at Mama Tried, it was cool because like it's still an intimate setting. It's an outdoor setting. Um, but it's a nice crowd. We had a lot of friends come out, and a lot of people just enjoy that bar and come out. And you could hear people in the audience going, "Oh, wait, these guys are actually good." Kind of being surprised that they didn't necessarily didn't even know anything about us. But I remember after our set, they make really good like homemade chili at that spot. And I remember we were kind of we call it the debriefing. When we kind of reflect on the gig we just played, the people we met from different bands, the people we met in the audience, of course, talking about how we played, things we learned to do and not to do from the gig. I remember it was like beautiful weather out, like a cool night. And we were eating this, delicious homemade chili, just really, I mean, in my opinion, enjoying our, each other's company.
It's
And
just
kind
you,
of like
Greg.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't remember that either.
um, and it just felt like, okay, this is, so much of life, it's hard to remain present because you're either, feeling guilty about shit you haven't done that you should have done, or feeling anxious about stuff you got to do in the future. But it was just one of those moments where I felt very present and around people that I, love. Um, and it just felt like, okay, we're on a path right now. You know what I mean? Like, we're already learning a lot. And like, I can see, you know, a way forward, and I can feel a shared desire to progress as a band. That moment stands out to me.
That's a very nice one, Jonathan. You got a specific moment?
I'm thinking of memorable moments. I'll tell you what, memorable moment. I remember when we played. We had been practicing, and then I want to say our first live show that we played might have been the one at the museum in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, our first show with Jonathan was at the
yeah,
Fusionism Museum in Easton, Pennsylvania.
yeah, and if I'm not, I've never asked, but I got the impression like it perhaps had been a while since Arklight had played live, and so after we were done playing, these two here gave each other a big hug. That's the only time I think I've seen them hug.
I don't
But it
remember
was
that at
like
all.
I remember that they hugged, and it was like watching two baby chicks um, that just flew out of the nest and then flew right back in safely.
That's hilarious.
First of all, if only that were the first time he compared us to baby chicks. But uh, a moment that stands out recently, as oddly a very fun moment, though. It was a very humorous one, but one more recently with the band with Noah in it. We had just done a gig in Philly at the Tin Can Bar, which is definitely one of our favorite venues. It unfortunately just closed this week. But it was a night that ran late because we were really enjoying the venue afterward. It was a venue that just had like the most chill vibe. We were playing with bands that we really dug, both as people and their music. And we were trying to hang out after the show. We were driving around, and it was getting late, and I knew Jonathan had been up since very early, and we were trying to go to Philly and come back the same night. So when we finally got to driving back to New York City, Jonathan, who does we should point out there's all the driving for us, and we're very appreciative of that. Both Dan and I actually don't have our license, um, but Jonathan was getting very tired on the road, and we needed to make a pit stop so Jonathan could take a little nap. Um, Dan, do you remember the name of the rest stop we pulled up
I
to?
don't. I'm trying to remember, but we pulled over to some rest stop in, I think in East Rutherford, New Jersey, kind of near the Giant Stadium, the MetLife Stadium, I think.
For
And
sure.
yeah, Jonathan just passed out, in the parking lot in the car, and the other three members of ArcLight had to go in and just kind of like sit at the Dunkin' Donuts or whatever it was, 24-hour Dunkin' Donuts, just chill with some coffee and snacks while we waited for
But it was
Jonathan
great
to
because
get
it
a second one.
definitely, I mean, it's moments like that. It's always, in my opinion, it's always when you're like eating food and hanging out with your bandmates, and even if one of them's asleep in the parking lot, um, it definitely. That was when I felt Noah was really, he was officially a member of the band at that point, because he had to just bullshit with us for hours, and we were all reflecting on the night we just had. It was an ongoing thing. Wondering when Jonathan would stagger in, seeing the weird people stopping at this rest stop at
Four in the
3 and 4 in
morning.
the morning.
Yeah.
um,
Oddly enough, a big truck full of live poultry pulled up in the parking space next to us, relating it to the little chicks. And then when Jonathan woke up, he was taking the videos of the chickens. So I'm sure we're going to maybe not the best fate as they made their way down the highway, but definitely an interesting night.
yeah, and it was interesting seeing like there were a couple people who stopped there who were clearly coming from like a rave, wearing like glitter
Glow
pants
sticks.
and
Yeah.
having glow sticks wrapped around every part of their body. It was just a really funny experience, and of course, usually the best parts are when we get to make fun of Jonathan. I find as a band. So,
So are you working on an EP or a single or maybe even a full album?
We have another full album fully recorded. I think it's 10 tracks. We recorded with our good friend Jasper Leach, who's in the band Berner Herzog. He's a great guy, and we kind of met him because he would come to our shows. And he recorded us at the Bunker Studios in Brooklyn. I think in Williamsburg, right, Craig?
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So we try and record something every December. That's kind of the pattern we've been doing. So yeah, last December recorded a further 10 tracks, even from the six we just released on the newest mini album. But then the next album is going to be called Theater State, and Greg right now is working on the cover art, and yeah, we're really excited about that one. I think that one showcases Jonathan's bass playing probably more than anything we released to that point, because this was when he was more ingrained in the band. So we're really excited for that one.
We
Sounds
also
fun.
recorded it um, after last year was definitely by far the busiest year we've had as a band. We played, I think at the end we tallied 40 gigs.
Wow.
Yeah, in 2024. So I definitely felt like we were firing on all cylinders as like a cohesive unit um, at that point. And it was great because it was someone that we, as Dan alluded to or touched on earlier, that it was someone we met through playing one of those shows. Who then we found out is in his band is someone who used to work with our dad um, at a bookstore, because our dad worked in bookstores for 50, probably 50 years. He worked at the Strand in the 70s. He always likes to say that I shout him out here that he worked with Patti Smith and Tom Verlaine at the Strand in the late 70s. And then, as each independent bookstore, he worked for a whole litany of independent bookstores that unfortunately closed down. But recording with Jasper Leach, someone who, again, came to a show, and then we're talking about, it's like, oh, I record bands, had all these other the whole 10 degrees of separation thing had all these other connections to us that we didn't know about. It felt very uh organic. I keep using that word. It felt very just, oh, cool, we're part of something larger than ourselves.
Yeah, but you left out the funny part was that somehow your dad and one of the band members was like in a like a poetry reading group or something together. And
Oh, like
and
a group
and their
chat, yeah.
dad is always like promoting us. Like their dad should be like in charge of promotion. So wherever they go, because their parents come to every show for the most part. Um, all the shows, at least one of them has been at. And so their dad, you know, he'll be like, "Oh, you got to hear this band. You hear this band, Arklight?" And so he said that to one of the guys at this poetry thing who happened to also play in a band with, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but he played in a band with Jasper who recorded us, but he didn't know
Yeah.
that. So their dad is like, "Oh, you got to hear my kids are in a band, like they're called Arklight. You got to check it." And the guy, he was like, "Yeah, okay, like whatever, like because somebody's always coming up to somebody and saying, 'Oh, my kids, you got to hear my." But then I guess the name Arklight stuck, and then Jasper mentioned to him that he was recording this band Arklight, and he was like, "Wait, what?" He's like, So I thought that was kind of funny.
He didn't even mention that he recorded us. He actually said, my favorite band in New York City
Oh,
right now
right.
is
Yeah, that's what he
Arklight.
said.
And the guy was like, no way. The dude I work with on occasion has talked about his kids being, he said, they're the best live act in New York City right now.
Right.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
So we're coming to a close on the interview. I have a couple
Sure.
more questions. First one being, what kind of message do you want to convey with your music?
That's a good
Well,
question. Well, I mean, our music tends to reflect on, I guess, the darker aspects of life and humanity. It's not really like disposable pop music. So I don't know if there's exactly like a clear message from it, but we definitely revel in, I guess, the darker aspects of life. And through playing this music, I guess there's some type of catharsis, and I guess help people deal with the world that we live in, which is not, maybe, this is a subjective thing, but not in the best place at the moment, I would say. Um, yeah, I don't know.
that's funny because I was about to answer that question in about a 100% opposite way. That I was going to say, the continued message that I would say again in that punk rock ethos is that, um, you know, this music is a form of creative expression where there should be no barrier to entry. Um, like when Dan and I first started playing music, I mean, it's funny because we look back at it with some regret that maybe we should have tried to get formally trained to play our instruments in some ways, because I know my drumming technique could definitely be refined in a lot of ways, but um, that when we first started playing, it was we would buy cassettes, record on cassettes, and we would just play improvised jams until the cassette ran out of tape. 45 minutes on each side, so we would just play these noisy, shrieky things. You want to convey to people that they too can pursue that if they wish. That you don't need to take hours of classical training to make something that is both satisfying for oneself and that other people can dig too. I guess perhaps there is some overlap with what Dan said in terms of, finding beauty through things that are perhaps rough around the edges, when it comes both to subject matter and technical skill or whatever. I think we have become, I don't want to act like we don't know how to play or anything like that, but I think that you want to encourage people to express themselves, because I think a lot of people don't do that because of anxiety. Like we've had a lot of discussions about things like quote unquote talent and how that's an overrated concept, and it really is the work you put in. Um, and like anyone can do it, but like people with physical disabilities, mental, we've all struggled with whatever. There should be no barrier of entry for making music, and I think all of our opinions um,
Definitely.
speak for.
It's really deep.
Yeah.
I think my last question is, do you have any recommendations of other bands in the city that people should check out? Like any bands that you're friends with?
Most definitely. We just played a show with a great band called Extreme Sports. I'll shout them out first and foremost. Super tight, kind of like Dead Kennedys style punk rock. Great humorous lyrics, intense three-piece band. Shout them out. Yard, one of our favorite bands. Right now, a duo, kind of like a synth punk type thing, maybe Suicide influence, but um, very kind of dark Nick Cave-esque Cormac McCarthy lyrics. We play with them. Our next show, actually, um, will be at Shillelagh Tavern in Astoria, Queens. Free show. Yard is going to be on that bill. Extreme Sports were on the bill, but had to drop off, unfortunately. But Yard are going to be on that. They're an amazing band. I shout out all the bands on that bill because they're all our friends. Receive, who also sometimes play under the name Star Card. Um, they Receive is kind of like their metal project. Are in that group. Um, Definitely recommend checking them out. And some of mine are also on that bill, which is our friend Alberto, who works at the Broadway, another great venue we should shout out. Um, and they're kind of like a tight three-piece post-punk unit. Um, Anyone else you guys want to mention?
Well, I definitely was going to say a group that we've seen grown, and it's interesting. Dan and I have been making music under the name Arklight for a long time, but like we said, it's the past 3 years where we've really, become way more aggressive with playing live and all that. But even after just 3 years in the scene, because unfortunately a lot of bands don't stand the test of time, um, because of all the pressures, the cost of living in this city and all a million other factors. Um, there's this band, Human Ecology Fund, that we've played with multiple times, that are younger than us, and it's funny after when we felt green, pretty green not too long ago, that we've kind of, I don't want to say taken them under our wing because that sounds, I'm not trying to put ourselves above them or anything like that, but it's cool that after only, the time we have, we can help younger bands kind of, both with, letting them know about venues that are cool, giving them advice on, just to not get discouraged and stuff like that. I definitely have a special place in my heart for Human Ecology Fund, just because, they're a bit younger than us as people too. Um, just have us, yeah, definitely think of them highly. And, it's cool having that relationship with a band where you feel like and they've aided us too, because playing with younger people definitely keeps us young. I think in certain ways. Um, but yeah, I'm sure there's many more that we've played with that. Chaser, as Dan described earlier, definitely a band we've played with multiple times, and the fact that Dan knew the band that the drummer played in before. They're an amazing unit. We played with them at Mercury Lounge, which is definitely a venue we love, and of course has a special place in music of New York City history. So yeah, definitely would throw those two in there.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Yeah.
all for joining me, Daniel, Gregory, Jonathan. Really
Thank you.
appreciated getting to talk to you, get to know a little bit more about Arclight. Do you have any upcoming shows that you want to plug before we call it a day?
Yeah, August 9th. It's a Saturday night. Shillelagh Tavern in Astoria, Queens. Me and Greg are both from Astoria, Queens. August 10th is my birthday, so it's gonna be like a birthday show. It's free. All four bands, they're fucking amazing. Um, that's gonna be a great show. And then I'll say August 30th, we're gonna play with Human Ecology Fund at a secret rooftop venue. So get on our Instagram, Arklight NYC, and DM us, and we'll give you details about that. And then play in Baker Falls in Manhattan, August 31st, with Drop Her, we're good friends, great band. And then we'll shout out Mama Tried Again, September 6th, with Russian Baths and Woodhead. Got to shout out Vern Woodhead, who's a great friend and a great musician, as well as Russian Baths. And that's another free show. So we got a bunch of free shows coming up. And yeah, Arclight NYC, we can always, if you want to find out where we're playing next, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Social media profiles will all be in the description of this video. So if you want to find the Instagram, it'll be linked from the description. So please check that out. If you're in the city and you're looking for something to do on any of those days, I would greatly recommend you go check out Arklight. I'm going to, because I missed them the first time when I could have seen them. But after talking to you guys, I'm pretty sure I would really like to see you live. So thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Gregory. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for joining us today. And
Thank you.
that's about it. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, Taylor.
100%. Thank you so much, Taylor.